Gran Turismo is well known for its rather challenging license test system, where you take on various courses and challenges to beat 3 set times, which are labelled as bronze, silver and gold. Those who have tried these license tests will remember how frustratingly difficult it was to get those gold times, and sometimes they even felt impossible. But I'm also sure that you will remember how satisfying it was when you finally saw that gold trophy appear in front of your face. Why am I using Gran Turismo 4 as a comparison? Well, firstly, I barely played GT5 before. Only for about 1 week, one time about 8 years ago when I hired out a PS3 just to see what GT5 was like. And secondly, I never got to try GT6. I grew up with GT4 and I've run through it multiple times before. So do I think GT7's license tests will match the level of difficulty that GT4 gave us? Well, recently I pushed through all the license tests for gold using my wheel and pedal setup to form my opinion about this. What I found in most cases in GT4 is that as long as you're using general race driving techniques like using all of the track, braking late but not too late, and being very smooth, is that after some time and practice you will likely reach those gold times. However, in a few of these tests it almost seems like you have to be abusing the game's physics to reach those gold times. Alright, for example, we're going to be taking a look at one of the GT4 license tests here with the Dodge Viper on, I believe, the 1000 meter drag strip. Now with this particular license test, you have to drive such a particular specific way. You have to catch a little bit of wheel spin at the start and brake at the most perfect point to be able to achieve a gold. After many attempts today, this is the best one I could get. I managed to squeeze a gold by driving it normally as I could do, and as we're going to see here, I just squeezed the gold by a couple tenths, not even 2/10 of a second. Now we're going to take a look at the way you can exploit this. Okay, so we're going to take another look at this, but this time we're going to exploit the physics to try get an even better time. So I'm going to start just like I did before, catch a little bit of wheel spin, which is actually very difficult to do in GT4. So going to take off as per normal, and we're going to reach about the 800 meter mark just before I'd be braking right after the 800 meter mark, and then just waiting till I get to the stopping point. Here we're going to use a handbrake, throw the car into a slide way later than before, end up facing backwards, and we're going to stop earlier, we're going to stop quicker, and this time the time is a whole tenth quicker, and that was one of my first attempts. So if I put some practice into doing this exploit, we could chop it even maybe a few more tenths off. So that's just one example. We'll move on to another one real quick. Here we have one of the rally license test stages on GT4. I had given it a few attempts, so I sort of knew what I was doing. This was one of my better attempts. I thought it was a nice clean run mostly. I scraped the wall a little bit here and there. Could have been a few tenths improvement, but mostly I thought it was a decent run. As you can see, I've tried to get close to the walls, hold decent rally lines, I'd guess. As we approach the end of the course here, we're moving up to the final turn. I'm going to have a nice apex here, and I thought I carried a good amount of speed through here, but it's only good enough for a silver time. So to get a gold time doing the test legitimately is going to be quite difficult. It's going to require some real precise lines. Now for the exploit method, where basically you don't touch the brakes or the handbrake, you just keep your foot pinned and use the walls to your advantage, and it won't disqualify you from the test. Now in GT4 license test, it requires you to have a fairly significant impact with a wall for it to disqualify you. But if your impact is light enough, like dragging on a wall like this, it doesn't disqualify you. And this was one of my first attempts at using this method. Back there I had a bit of a misshift, so I cost myself some time. One of my first runs, just like I said before, hitting the walls all over the place and straight into the golds. I know it was only about a tenth into the gold section, but like I said, one of my first goes. Give that a few more and I'm probably going to reach another, I'm going to be another half a second quicker. So that's one test where you can abuse the physics and the track to your advantage. I'm going to be taking a look at one more license test, and this is one of the most difficult license tests in GT4. Now there's no significant exploit here, but you really need to have a solid understanding of the physics of GT4 if you're wanting to be able to achieve gold here. As you saw right at the start, I cut right across all the track limits as much as I could without getting disqualified, and since this is such a long straight, we're going to skip towards the end of it and we'll continue from there. Okay, so now we make our way towards the end of the Millsun straight. We're going to brake as hard as we can, use all the track limits on the outside, but we're not going to shift right down. We're going to keep it in third gear, and we're going to avoid all the bumps and curves, because as soon as you hit a bump, even in third gear, you're going to get wheel spin. And as soon as you get wheel spin with this car, you're not going anywhere. You're going to lose tons of time. And the only way to get away from that sort of wheel spin, you have to upshift. And once you get into fourth gear, then you lose the wheel spin. But then you're in a higher gear and you have less pull out of the corner. So it's not ideal. As you're going to see towards the end of my run here, I believe I do get a little bit of wheel spin coming out of the corner in third gear. As you heard, a little bit of a screech in the tyres there, got wheel spin, and the first thing I had to do there was just shift straight up to fourth gear to avoid the wheel spin. Back in third gear for the final turn, and we're just going to squeeze into the golds. Now another quick look at that. Why didn't I shift down to first or second gear coming out of the hairpins? Well, we're going to slow down here and look what happens if I shift into first and second. Basically, as soon as I touch the throttle, there's just wheel spin, and like I said, that just slows you right down. Generally, when you get to about third, you'll be safe, but even when you're in third, and if you hit a bump, you're going to get wheel spin as well. So the exploit is just to understand the physics of the game, so you can get as much time, or you can save as much time as possible, and get that gold. There are more tests that require you to drive in some strange ways to get the fastest time possible, but that's due to the game having rather exploitable physics, and that's kind of understandable for its time. This takes me back to the question that I asked at the start. Will Gran Turismo 7's license tests be as difficult as Gran Turismo 4's? Well, for the most part, I'd likely say they'd have a similar level of difficulty, but with Gran Turismo 7 being released in 2022, I'm sure it will have much more up-to-date and more logical physics than Gran Turismo 4 did back in 2004. So you can kind of look at this in a couple different ways. If you didn't really use any sort of exploits in your GT4 license tests, then GT7 might be a little bit easier for you since it's a little bit more logical and the driving experience should be a little bit more realistic. I know we sometimes bash Gran Turismo and Forza for not having the most realistic physics, but come on, this is nearly 20 years in the future. It's a bit more realistic than it was back then, at least. Now, if you did exploit your Gran Turismo 4 license tests, then Gran Turismo 7 might be a little bit more difficult for you since you have to drive it the proper way. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that there's not going to be any exploits, but to me it seems more logical that it'll be a bit more realistic. I'm doubtful that we will be seeing tests that are as exploitable as the past, but maybe I'll be proven wrong. The whole point of these tests are to help improve your driving skills and to make you faster on the track, but we will see. What are your thoughts on the Gran Turismo license test system, and what do you think the experience will be like in Gran Turismo 7? Chat about it in the comments and make sure to let me know if I've missed something that I should have mentioned, and thank you for watching.